America needs a tidal wave of the old-time religion.
I have sinned against you.
How dare you!
We have no need to doubt God.
The heart of Babylon is preparing the nations to receive the Antichrist.
I didn't even build that house with money from the church. I built it with money from my book. I don't make this stuff up.
Repenting of your sins.
It is a moral issue.
They got together and swore a pact to the devil.
I just enjoy seeing people worship, praising God.
Hey everybody, welcome to Believe It or Not.
Back again for another bye week.
Back in the bye week. We're here.
People say that, right?
People say that.
They should.
They should. If they're not saying that, get out.
You should. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
And then come on back and listen to this episode.
Come on back.
Yeah.
I'm Trevor Poelman.
And I'm Damien Doepping.
And if you're watching on YouTube, here's a picture of us dressed as Mormons.
That happened.
Yeah, we once dressed as Mormons for a video, and now we're going to talk about them.
Oh, that's good. So we have experience.
We have experience. We dressed as Mormons once. Yes, okay. So we're drinking coffee right now.
Mormons aren't allowed?
They don't drink coffee.
Why not?
Caffeine's a drug, man. Caffeine's one hell of a drug.
So, okay, are they not allowed to have any drugs?
Pretty much.
What about like prescription drugs?
No, they can do prescriptions. It's like no recreational drugs, I think.
Okay.
So, I think they can have sugar. Is that a drug? I don't know.
Some people would maybe argue it could be, but I don't know.
Yeah. Those people are just too argumentative for my...
Oh, do they not like arguments either?
I don't know. No, they love it, probably.
Oh, or is that why? Don't they like a lot of them live just like, in their own compounds and stuff, so they don't have to...
The fundamentalist Mormons
So maybe they don't like arguments.
Yeah, maybe they don't. Yeah.
I mean, if you don't like arguing, what's a good way to do it is shut yourself off from the rest of humanity and never talk to them ever again.
Yeah, that's true. So let's talk about Mormons today.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's start with, Joseph Smith?
I've heard of the guy.
Yeah. Have you seen Book of Mormon or listened to the soundtrack?
I've heard the soundtrack. I've also seen the South Park episode about it.
Yeah. It's a good one.
I think that's...
So you know the basics. You know the golden plates?
Yeah, that he found in the ground and read to someone else.
So I think it varies. I think some accounts he says he was 14. Some accounts he says he was older. And the 14 might be when the angel Moroni? We'll call him Angel Mo from now on.
Moron.
That's when he, the angel came to him when he was young, right? But then he didn't tell the story till he was not young. So it's hard to say. Okay. Like, I've heard arguments from Mormons like, yeah, really, like a kid just made up the story. It's like, no, he made up the story when he was an adult about being a kid.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that hard to understand. But, so basically, we'll talk some Mormons. We'll talk Mormonism. We'll talk a little bit about Joseph Smith. We'll talk a little bit about what they believe and kind of some controversies around it. This is not going to be a comprehensive episode because there's so much to get through with the Mormons. There's a podcast called Naked Mormonism.
Naked Mormonism.
Which I highly recommend. It's like just about the history of Mormons. Oh. And it's really good. The presenter is really funny and really interesting. I 100% recommend it if you want to get in depth about Mormons, but I think we'll just kind of cover some of the basics. So we've talked many times about the Second Great Awakening and the Great Awakening. So Joseph Smith family was kind of taken in with the tent revival of the Second Great Awakening, but they had like differences of opinions on religion, even though they loved the tent meetings and stuff. His parents never agreed on religion, and
like his parents themselves, between each other,
never agreed on religion, and there was kind of always arguments and stuff in the family.
I find that such an interesting thing is when people are together in that capacity and they have such varying differences in beliefs.
Yeah.
But when it's something where it's just like a matter of just different sects and minor differences, but still there's such a large schism.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's the same as like Catholic and Protestant kind of hatred
and
too, right?
How many wars have been existed because of Catholics and Protestants?
You're basically believing in the same thing.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Sunnis and the Shiites, right? Like, it's just
all down to semantics.
Yeah, it's true. But like his family also kind of believed in like folk magic and like things like that, and they would supplement their income by doing like water witching.
Oh, is that with like a divining rod?
Yeah, and they would also do like treasure seeking with like seeing stones or seer stones.
So were they believing in magic, or were they like scam artists?
I think they're more into like scamming people and stuff like that. I think they slightly believed in magic, but more were good at conning, because they would like. He's been arrested many times. He had been arrested many times for conning people out of money.
His father was?
No, Joseph Smith and his father,
And yet he still founded something in people. This is like an L. Ron Hubbard kind of thing.
It's there's a lot of parallels with L. Ron Hubbard. Have you ever seen the video of Richard Dawkins and Brandon Flowers on the same talk show?
No.
Okay. So Brandon Flowers.
He's Mormon, right?
He's Mormon, lead singer of the Killers. He was on a talk show, a panel kind of talk show in Europe, and Richard Dawkins was one of the other guests. And Richard Dawkins, he's being asked about religion. He's like, for example, you look at the Mormon church, and that's obviously started by a con artist. And Brandon Flowers, you could just see the rage growing on his face.
Geez.
And then he's like, no, sir, you need to do your research. And he's talking about why there's evidence and stuff for the Book of Mormon. And Richard Dawkins is like, well, I think I have done my research. Because he was talking about how the Book of Mormon was written in the 1800s, but was written in 1600s Old English. So it sounded like the King James Bible.
Give it more legitimacy.
Yeah, exactly. There were parts actually pulling right from the King James version of the Bible, including the errors of the time. It was plagiarized from the Bible, a book called View of the Hebrews. Which was a book about the Israelites coming, 13th tribe coming over to America, and then building up. And Jesus comes to the Americans, and he stole a lot from that. So this was like a kind of a book of this guy thought this might have happened, and then he wrote a scripture out of it.
Okay.
And then there's another book called The First Book of Napoleon, which he pulled stuff from.
Okay, so it's basically talking about Jesus' world tour.
Yeah, exactly.
And all the stops.
Yeah, he claimed he got the golden plates, and then he claimed that the angel Moroni told him to start a church. And that was a thing too, to go back to the fact that his parents were kind of fighting over religion. One of their big selling points was that he was struggling with what religion was true and what the truth was and what denomination was true. He was leaning more towards Methodism, and then according to the narrative, he started praying a lot, and that's when the angel came down and said, none of them are exactly right, and you have to bring the church back to what it should be.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why they can justify all these huge changes.
Yeah.
Because God did it.
It's restructuring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when a company, is just like, listen, we need to cut our losses.
Yeah, we need to
trim the fat, rebrand.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what he did. So he claimed that he found some golden plates, and then he used that seer stone that he used for those con jobs before to translate the plates.
So Mormonism is kind of like the McCafe.
It is the McCafe of religions. Yeah. But with weird things added.
Yeah. Like McCafe.
Yeah, with McCafe. I never know. You walk by McCafe and it's like, can I get a Big Mac? Can I walk in there and get a Big Mac?
You can get a bagel sandwich.
I don't want a bagel sandwich.
I want a Big Mac.
I want a Big Mac sandwich.
They don't got it.
Yeah.
Breakfast only. Sorry, pals.
Yeah. Ugh. Joseph Smith marries Emma, right? He's boarding with Emma's family, falls in love with Emma, and that's his wife's name.
He was boarding with them?
He's boarding, paying room and board.
Yeah.
And he... parents didn't like him because he didn't have a steady job or whatever, so then they ended up moving in with his parents, got married, and then that's kind of when he moved around a bit, and then eventually stayed at this guy named Martin Harris's place. And this guy is known as one of the most gullible people in history, and he bought everything that Joseph Smith said, hook, line, and sinker.
So he was just a big dummy.
He was a big dummy, and he was also very wealthy, so he...
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I wish we knew a big dumb wealthy guy.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, if you're listening and you're a big, dumb, wealthy guy, or no one, you send them our way.
Yeah, give us a call.
Yeah.
We could really use one.
Yeah. Just finance. Maybe it's new studio space.
Yeah, leather jackets.
Yeah. Oh, some cool leather jackets.
Yeah, we would love some cool leather jackets. Yeah. So if you know a big, dumb, wealthy guy who wants to just throw money at a couple of dweebs, we're his guys.
Yeah. So
or her guys.
Yeah, we're her guys. Yeah.
Hey, we're not going to discriminate.
Yeah.
Just so long as you're big, dumb, and wealthy.
Yeah, big, dumb, and wealthy is all we need. You don't even have to be big, just dumb and wealthy.
Or wealthy.
Or wealthy.
You don't have to be dumb.
Yeah.
All we were asking for is a wealthy person to give us money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
Martin Harris, if you're out there, still alive, I don't know. I don't remember when you died, or if you died.
Richard Branson, if you're
so
listening.
this is it. So in 1827, right, is when he says he finally dug up the golden plates. September 22nd, 1827, he digs up the golden plates, conveniently knew where he's located, and starts translating it with the seer stone.
Well, to be fair,
yeah.
You said conveniently where he's located.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, if God asked him to do it, why would God put it way far
That's
away?
true. No, you're right.
Of course God's going to put it close by.
Yeah.
That only makes sense.
Yeah. I love that line in Book of Mormon, too, when it's like, can we see the plates? No, just cuz. Anyways, that's not even remotely how they said it. But he starts translating it. And Martin Harris's wife is really skeptical about it, right? So she...
It's the voice of reason in all this.
So she tells Martin Harris that what you have to do is you have to take the transcripts he has so far and hide them somewhere. Tell him you lost it. And if he can translate them again the same way, then you know that he's telling the truth, right? Because it's like Martin Harris is like writing it out while he's looking in this hat, just saying what he's seeing. So it's like, okay, that's a good idea. But then Joseph Smith says that because he sinned against God by losing the transcripts, God wasn't going to give him the same translation again.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so now it's going to be a
that's
slightly
funny.
different, not full translation of this chapter.
That's so
So
funny.
they give him a new... And Martin Harris is like, oh, okay, cool
That makes
beans.
sense.
That
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah. And eventually 3 people signed saying that they had seen the golden plates and seen that he had translated them correctly. They're called the 3 witnesses. Later, it's kind of confirmed that only Martin Harris signed it, and the other ones, it was signed for
were
them.
fake.
And they said they saw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then the religion kind of started out of there. That's the gold. I mean, there's way more to it than that, but that's
No,
yeah.
This,
And so
these
he
are-
gets the book
these are the
published.
basics.
Yeah.
The meat and potatoes.
Hey guys,
of it.
we're looking at meat and potatoes here.
That's what we should have called this show. Meat and
Meat
potatoes.
and potatoes. We're changing the name from now on. Yeah.
Today
So
on Meat and Potatoes.
pretty much the golden plates. Obviously he had to put them back where we found them.
Mm-hmm.
Even
in
though
the ground.
Yeah, even though a lot of his finances came from promising people that they can go on tour with the golden plates. Eventually, God was like, "Nah, we need this. We need.
Yeah,
to put
I
this
need
back
I
where-"
need the gold back in heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't find the golden plates, but you can find other things he translated from. For like the Book of Abraham, was an actual Egyptian thing he bought at a touring Egyptian show.
Yeah.
And it was just it's supposed to be this book, but it was really just burial rites. That was Egyptian burial rites,
And they
it's-
just pretended to translate.
yeah, because he translates it from God before the Rosetta Stone is found. Rosetta Stone comes along, so they know how to translate it.
Mm-hmm.
And same with these other things. They were called not plates, but something like that. And that's another thing that was translated as, and it was just a forgery. It was never.
Yeah, they didn't.
Yeah,
Didn't matter.
yeah. And then of course John the Baptist came down and blessed the church, and him and the 3 witnesses are blessed by John the Baptist, who came down from heaven to do that, to start this new church.
When did that happen?
1830.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's when the church started. They started in Western New York. Independence, Missouri is when they kind of moved to, and then they eventually just started their own town.
Okay. So they started in Western New York.
Yeah.
Wh-
And then Missouri, they got pushed around a lot because they had crazy beliefs.
Yeah, because they're a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah.
And is that why they settled in
in Utah?
Utah?
Yeah. Because so they created this small town, and then somebody said something bad about them in the newspaper of that town. So it was an ex-Mormon who said something bad about them in his newspaper. Nauvoo. The town was called Nauvoo. And then the Nauvoo expositor just wrote a negative thing about Joseph Smith, and so Joseph Smith, being him, burned the newspaper down, burned the building down.
Okay, that's a rational way to do something.
He goes to jail, and then he has a gun on him because it's the 1830s, and they didn't take his gun away. when they put him in jail. And they have or maybe it was smuggled in. But anyways, he has a gun in jail, and then a mob comes to kill him, and then there's a gunfight. He kills 2 people, but eventually him and his brother killed. And this is still considered a martyrdom.
Oh, Joseph Smith and his brother get killed in jail?
Yeah, in jail. But it's kind of presented now in the Mormon church that like he was just an innocent guy arrested for being Mormon, and then somebody comes in and assassinates him in jail.
Okay.
Yeah. But then, so Brigham Young takes over the church.
I've heard of Brigham Young.
Yeah. BYU is the university named after him.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
We've talked about Brigham Young University, I think, before.
And then they go to Utah to be free of, the world. The Utah War happens, so it's the U.S. versus Utah because basically the Mormons have their own war. Yeah, and that's I think we should do a full episode on that, and especially the massacre, the Mountain Meadows massacre, which is the one that happened on 9/11 in 1850s. Yeah. Anyways, it happened.
Okay. Yeah.
Where they killed
focus on the tragedies.
Yeah, the tragedies and things like
themselves.
that. But yeah, so that's kind of the basic, really. And Utah is where they, he gets there and it's like puts down his cane and says, "This is the promised land," and they build a temple to God. Okay. So that's why they have those huge buildings in Salt Lake City. Yeah. To God, and like kind of the opposite of what was happening a lot with the tent meetings, where it's like very humble. Everybody's like tearing down all symbolism and stuff in the churches. They kind of go the opposite way and say, "We're gonna build these great," because they were kind of obsessed too with Solomon. Because going back to Joseph Smith, he was a Mason, and they were kind of obsessed with Solomon, and so that kind of whole thing blended over. So let's talk about some beliefs of the Mormons.
Yes, belief systems of the Mormons.
They consider themselves Christians. Most Christians don't consider Mormons Christians because they don't really believe in the Trinity.
Okay. The Holy Trinity.
So like most other non-Trinitarian churches, they say it's because it's the same person, but he's like has different.
Yeah, because it feels more like it's a monotheism.
Yeah,
a polytheism.
Yeah, but this is like straight up polytheism. So Mormons, God is like Father God is the God.
Yep.
Jesus is a God, and the Holy Spirit is a God. They're not the same thing. They're separate gods. There's also a bunch of other gods. Just they're not the God of our planet or our universe, depending on their like individual theology. So like God is our God, and all Mormons can become a god in the afterlife. If you're good enough on this life, and you get enough, if you get all the passwords and stuff, in the temple, you can become a god.
The high score.
You get the high score. So like everybody was a spirit, kind of an angel type deal in heaven, and then you're put on earth as a test. If you become a Mormon, you pass the test, you get to the right heaven. You become a good enough Mormon, you become a god.
Oh man, wouldn't that be great if you found yourself, you realize like after a millennia that you were in fake heaven all along?
Oh yeah.
And then this place that seems so great, you're always like, oh,
yeah,
maybe it's not that great.
I was in fake heaven
this whole time.
Because regular heaven, the good heaven is when you get to hang out with God, and then it's like from there you can become.
In a way, isn't this just like extreming sainthood in a way?
Yeah.
So I mean, it was already kind of done, but they weren't saying like, oh, you become a god, but it's like, no, you become a saint.
Yeah. When my brother was still like a Christian and stuff, he visited a Mormon church just to check out like what they were all about, and he said it was really jarring when somebody gave their testimony and said that they're really grateful that they get to be a god someday, and just how weird that sounded. Like
that is a weird thing to say.
So they have the Bible, they have the Book of Mormon, and they have the Doctrine and Covenants, and they also have the Pearl of Great Price.
Pearl of Great Price?
Yeah.
Is that just an expensive pearl?
I think so.
The Pearl of Great Price.
So those are the books they follow. I think, and they also have prophets, right? So like the president of the church, speaks directly to God, and so which has caused a lot of problems because one president is going to say something that another president disagrees with.
It's
so how are they?
Kind of like the Pope, isn't it?
Exactly, like how the Pope is infallible.
So as much as we're saying like this is ridiculous,
Yeah.
and these are things that happen.
Oh,
in other
all
religions all the
are
time.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just what's fun about the Mormon Church is that it's as crazy as the rest, but it's also recent, so it doesn't have that like.
It doesn't have the prestige.
Yeah, exactly.
The legitimacy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a few things that there. I think I don't know. It seems a little more closed off than some of the other ones.
Yeah. Well, they also believe in. Let's see. The Garden of Eden is in Jackson County, Missouri. 3 levels of heaven: celestial, terrestrial, and terrestrial and telestial. I can't say words.
Terrestrial.
And and they also that's when different levels. So they don't have a hell, which is nice.
That's good.
Good for them.
I mean, I don't have a hell either.
Yeah, it's true.
So.
Joseph Smith was up there with Jesus at the beginning, and then Satan was also Jesus' brother, I think. And
his younger brother,
who was like,
who just wants to shoot baskets.
Yeah.
With him.
So he gets mad. It's like the kind of like
I want to turn.
Yeah, it's like in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
They don't do drugs, things like that. Not allowed to drink.
But they're allowed to have a bunch of wives, aren't they? Or is that only some?
So polygamy. Joseph Smith was a secret polygamist.
We want to
right?
get to the important things.
We want to get to
want to
polygamy.
know about polygamy.
So polygamy. Joseph Smith was a secret polygamist. He only told other people on his quorum of 12. So that's like the main leadership.
Yeah.
Also, if any listeners hear any similarities to Battlestar Galactica, it's because the writer of the original series was a Mormon and based the structure of their society on Mormon society.
Really?
Yeah. And so the new version, if you watch that, took a lot of that stuff, but also added in Greek mythology. So it's a nice little
Greek Mormons
combination. But yeah, so Joseph Smith had 34 wives?
34?
Yeah, some as young as 14.
How do people not know?
Yeah, exactly. And then
gross.
He was also publicly telling people that it was wrong. But they justified that by saying
he told people that polygamy was wrong
while being polygamist,
an extreme polygamist.
Yeah, and they justified it by saying that
and a pedophile.
He was told by God. Yeah, he was told by God, but society wasn't ready for it. So that's why he publicly said it was wrong, but secretly him and the other leaders were all polygamists. And then after his death, Brigham Young was like, no, it's cool. So then they all became, it became kind of a rule to be polygamous.
It was kind of I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids are going to love it.
Yeah, exactly.
It was about polygamy.
This is your cousin, Marvin Berry. You know how you only have one wife? But
this guy's got 34.
And then they justified it later by saying that there was just a lot of widows at the time because of Civil War and things like that.
Yeah.
So the leader, but it's a lot of 14-year-old widows were there.
I feel like there's been a lot of religious reasons for people, and I guess some cultural reasons for people marrying widows and stuff.
Yeah,
it just ends up feeling very creepy.
It does, yeah. And he forced other people out of their marriages to marry him because he was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they said you had to have your first wife's permission every time you get married, but he never got his wife's permission.
Yeah, he's the man. He doesn't need permission.
Yeah. It was just bull plop.
Yeah.
And then that caused, it was the polygamy that caused a lot of the fights and stuff like that because polygamy was illegal.
Yeah.
And then, so after they made it illegal, a lot of people ended up going to, after they outlawed it in Utah, which was still a theocratic state, but they wanted to join the U.S.,
mm-hmm.
They arrested a lot of people for continuing polygamy. But
yeah,
I don't know. It was a whole thing.
My thing about something like that, just as a woman, how you can be.
Yeah,
I know you're indoctrinated into it. You're basically conditioned, but at the same time, it's just how can you be okay with that?
Yeah, especially at the beginning when you weren't indoctrinated. Everybody was new.
Yeah.
You have this radical cult leader. All of a sudden, you're my wife now.
I don't want to blame people who are obviously in positions of vulnerability within a hierarchy of messed upness, but
That's true. Yeah.
you always kind of wonder, like, how can this happen? But
yeah.
shit like this happens all the time. That's just
Mm-hmm.
people suck.
And, fundamentalist Mormonism, they still follow polygamy.
There's been a lot of cases about that. I think that's what people are most familiar with outside of the comedy side of what we know about Mormons.
Yeah.
But a lot of young people see, even if for whatever reason I was just like, you want to have multiple wives? Like, okay, I don't care. You want to have multiple wives?
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me too much. If everyone's like
everyone's
okay
on
with
board.
it,
Yeah.
who cares?
Yeah.
But so much of it, maybe not so much of it, but the cases you see a lot of times it's with children.
Yeah.
And that's fun.
Yeah,
and how can a community be like? How can parents be like, yeah, you can marry my 13-year-old daughter?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
and be like,
disgusting.
yeah, that's good. Let's let a
fine,
65-year-old man marry my 13-year-old daughter.
Yeah, it's awful. And I think we'll do a full episode on the fundamentalist Mormons because that's another crazy thing. The one of their leaders has been in prison for a long time for like he had like 12-year-olds as wives and stuff like that. So it's just disgusting.
Yeah.
So there's they also have temple garments, their magic underwear.
There's a lot of things that religions that have magic underwear. Don't
Yeah, but these are like white underwear, and they have little symbols on it based on like Masonic symbols.
Doesn't Judaism kind of have they have those shawls that they wear?
Yeah,
I mean, in a way, it's kind of like magic
they do.
underwear.
Yeah, a lot of religions have different kind of clothing and stuff like that. There was Mormons put out a video a while ago about like, oh, you can call it magic underwear, but like look at all these other religions that have things that they wear. And it's a good point.
I feel like I'm a lot more on the Mormon side than I thought I would be because you're bringing up things like these guys they do this. I'm like, don't all the other ones do that
no,
too?
they're all crazy. These are just kind of how they're crazy.
Okay. Go.
They have kind of different levels of Mormonism, and they have to get like temple blessings like to go into the temple. So you have to live like a very like strict life, and you have to meet with like the elder and tell him all the sins you've made in order to get like allowed into the temple. And that's where you learn the secret handshakes you have to do in order to get into heaven.
They have secret handshakes?
So you have to, in order to get into heaven, you have to have a secret handshake that you're given.
No.
Yeah.
This is real?
This is real. And you're also given a temple name that you're not allowed to tell anybody, and you have to tell them your temple name.
Is this a club in a treehouse?
That's what I'm thinking. Like, I mean, it's kind of no girls allowed. So
no, more girls allowed, but they can't do anything except marry you.
Yeah, exactly. So only the guys can be gods. Obviously, I don't know if you caught that.
Okay, yeah.
And then you're the family. Like they're huge into like family structure, right? And that's because you have to be married to another Mormon in order for, like, if you're a woman, you have to be married into heaven. So that's
what if you die as a child?
Then I think if you die as a child,
or what,
you're still like of that age where it's like if your
it's
parents
okay.
are Mormon,
you get
you're
the
part
free
of that
pass.
family. You get that free pass.
Okay.
Yeah.
As soon as you turn 12, no.
Mm-hmm. They use water for their communion, which is different than other.
Oh, instead of
like wine or grape juice.
Yeah.
Priesthood. When you hear the term priesthood, that's actually talking about the male members of the church.
Oh,
so they're all part of the priesthood. So you're ordained into the priesthood.
I guess if everyone can become a god, then you would hope that they have at least decent qualifications.
So obviously, like, not everybody in the church is a priest.
No,
but everybody in the church can be a priest. It doesn't mean like you're. Yeah. Like, I think they have like a lot of Mormon communities will have like seminary after school, so you go to this other thing and you learn about God and stuff like that, so that you can get to your priesthood. Things like that, and then that's when you can get into the temple. You get married in the temple, so that's why non-Mormons can't go to a Mormon wedding
because it's all in the temple.
So like, if you want to marry a Mormon in the temple and like your family's not Mormon, you can convert. But then your family
won't be able to be there.
Yeah, unless they convert too. But
could you Skype them in?
That's a good question.
I wonder if that's a loophole that they could do now.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, no, because you can't record any temple, any goings on in the temple. There was a big controversy a couple years ago because somebody snuck in a camera to record like the secret handshakes and stuff. and then like that whole ceremony, which apparently till the 80s had blood oaths involved.
Really?
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Blood oaths.
Yeah,
huh?
this is a clubhouse.
Jeez.
They baptize people for the dead, so you can be baptized for a dead person.
For a dead
Yeah,
person?
because after you die, you're still able to convert to Mormonism. You can like intercede for people and pray that they get converted in the afterlife.
That's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, and then you can get who was it? Mitt Romney. You know Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
Famous for blowing out his candles and his birthday cake one at a time. Have you seen this
yeah,
video?
I have seen this video. Yeah. He picked each one up, didn't he?
Yeah, pulled them each out of the cake and then blew them out individually.
I remember this.
But I guess he got baptized for his father-in-law, who was an atheist, an outspoken atheist. He got baptized for him.
What a total fuck you
Yeah.
to someone whose beliefs were in complete opposition to what yours were.
And now that I'm saying it, I'm pretty sure that was Mitt Romney, and it could have been another famous
someone else.
Mormon. But
regardless,
Mitt Romney did blow out his candles weird.
yes, he did do that.
Yeah, regardless, like don't make decisions for someone after they're dead. Come on.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in a way, you kind of have to because they're dead.
That's
can't
true.
make but something like that, where someone is very clearly of a certain belief set, it'd be like someone taking, I don't know, like someone like Richard Dawkins and then baptizing him and saying like he wanted to go to heaven.
I've heard Hitler's a Mormon now.
Hitler's a Mormon?
Yeah, he's been converted after death.
Why would you want to convert Hitler?
Yeah.
Get
him out of there. Yeah.
I feel like of all the people that you wouldn't want to baptize, Hitler would be one of them.
But also, like, you'd be pretty mad as, like, a Jewish person if you found out that one of your relatives who was killed in the Holocaust was converted, like, quote-unquote converted after death.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
I'd be
fucked
so
up, too.
mad. But, I mean, unless Mormonism turns out to be true.
I was going to say at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, they're just playing pretends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, or unless it does turn out to be true, then you're golden.
Yeah, then you're safe. Better safe than sorry, I say.
You get swept out of fake heaven.
Yeah.
and put into real heaven.
Put into real heaven. Can I go back to the coffee thing for a second?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I saw a video that was only supposed to be shown to Sunday school classes, like in the 80s, like 2 Mormon Sunday school classes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like basically like still images with like voices over it. So it was like these kids playing soccer, and then they see their teacher who's a Mormon, and they call her sister whatever because she's, a Mormon. And then they get to school and they go to call her sister and like, oh no, it's Mrs. because she's our teacher. We have to call her Mrs. whatever here. And then they see her walking with a cup of coffee, and they're just like in shock that their Mormon teacher drinks coffee. And they start discussing like whether she's a real Mormon or whatever. And then it turns out she was just bringing the coffee to another teacher because she was having a bad day. So she was getting another teacher a cup of coffie. And
so you're allowed to deal it, but you're not allowed to do it?
I guess so.
That's what that sounds like.
That's what that sounds like.
Have you seen that video? I don't remember if they were Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses. The one where it's it was a video about masturbating, or about why you shouldn't masturbate, but it was in sign language.
And that was Jehovah's Witnesses.
It was Jehovah's Witnesses, yeah. And then they put it to like 50 cents into club or something like that.
But there was a letter that came out from the Mormon Church about how to avoid masturbating if you're on your mission. Because boys, when they turn like 18 or whatever, go on a mission before they go to college, or 17, 18.
Are a big thing in Mormonism.
Yeah,
too.
so you pair off. So you always have to be with your partner, right? You can never.
So you don't.
So you don't yank it, and you're also supposed to, if you get tempted, you're supposed to sleep with the Book of Mormon in your hands, so that you don't. You're not tempted to. Yeah, and you're also supposed to wear multi layers of clothing, so that as you're falling asleep, you don't accidentally touch yourself inappropriately. Like, so it's harder to undress yourself in your sleep, so you don't masturbate.
I always find it very funny. I don't know if I say funny is the right word, but there's always such a focus on sex and sexuality in religion, yet there's still like the extremes, like you're not allowed to masturbate, but you can have as many wives.
You can have a 14-year-old wife, but you're not allowed to masturbate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, you can't currently have a 14-year-old wife in the main denominations.
No, but again,
But
it's
in
the
the
same
smaller-
thing.
yeah.
It's all about sexual repression.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
People want to control other people's lives, and what better way to do it than with their genitals?
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's true. One time, though, I was on a bus, and there was a Mormon missionary, and he kept pestering this guy. He's like, just try it. Just try it. Just try it.
What, Mormonism?
Mormonism. And I'm like, excuse me, are you trying to convert him to Mormonism by saying just try it?
Did he try it?
And he's like, sir, this is a conversation between me and him. And I was like, no, you're really annoying this man. He's like, no, I'm not. And I was like, okay, first of all, you're doing this all wrong.
Yeah.
This is not the right approach. Like, this guy was weird. I've seen some very nice Mormon missionaries. This guy was weird.
Did you help him out? And he's just been like laying up all those conversions
Yeah,
since you helped him?
hopefully.
Oh, true.
But I was like, you're trying to convert him to a new religion. You're not trying to get him to try a new flavor of Doritos. But
Are Mormons allowed to eat Doritos?
I'm sure it's their one vice. The one thing that's allowed.
Good to know.
Yeah. Well, they are supposed to eat like healthy, so probably not too much.
They aren't supposed
They
to?
are supposed to eat
Oh,
healthy.
they
Yeah.
are.
So there's probably not too much
That's
Doritos. Probably like in moderation.
Yeah, if you have a treat now and then.
Yeah. But another time I was waiting for a Subway, and this guy came over and was like, obviously a Mormon missionary, and he was asking me about what I believe and stuff. And for some reason, like, he asked me why I was an atheist, and I said, just reading Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins, which I should have said I Googled it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an interesting conversation. But then at the end, he's like, do you want to meet sometime? I was like, no, not at all. But good luck with your mission.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's an interesting thing. Like, why do you believe this? Like,
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't really have to. Like, why are you a Mormon?
Yeah, because you were raised in it, and yeah, I don't know.
I feel like the reason why they are a Mormon is more compelling. It's more evidence to me of why I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's part of the reason with me too, like why I took so long to come out as atheist was it just took me a long time to accept it myself because
it's such a huge part of your life.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like raised in it, and then I was shutting stuff off. Like I remember once I started watching this video where they were debunking like healings and stuff, and I just shut it off because I was like, I can't deal with that right now. Like,
I mean, it's a part of your identity. It's part of your family.
Yeah.
It's kind of your whole world for.
Yeah. And part of me wants to like just say you need to Google your religion, but on the other part, it's like I don't really want to be that guy who's like, unless you're already searching, I want to help you get to the right spot. But if you're like, I don't know, I'm on the fence about that.
It's got to be pretty scary having your whole kind of worldview questioned.
Yeah,
like everything you thought to be true.
Yeah,
your whole life.
Oh yeah,
and then you kind of realizing that maybe it's not.
Yeah.
I think that I can see how that'd be. Incredibly difficult for anybody.
Oh, that's another thing too. Maybe I was going for is with the like sexuality thing. Is there's a lot of this video I was watching today. This guy was talking about how there's a lot of suicides because you're expected to get to such a high standard in order to get that temple blessing and in order to become a god or whatever. That people, like, if they're struggling masturbating or they're struggling with homosexuality or whatever it is that they consider a struggle, the suicide rate's going to go up because they feel so worthless and useless, and it's just like...
they kind of lose all self-worth.
Yeah, exactly, where it's something that's so natural, like who you're attracted to or just wanting a sexual release.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is indicative of a lot of religious movements.
Exactly.
I mean, there's definitely degrees. It's all a spectrum.
Yeah.
But
on that note, let's talk about the LGBT
I'm guessing
aspect.
It's not very good.
They're not for it.
Didn't think so.
Yeah. Well, what's that thing in right in the Turn It Off song in Book of Mormon, they talk about having sexual desires versus like, can you have sexual desires but not act on them? Or so that's kind of a debate within the Mormon church. Like they would refer to it as same-sex attraction instead of like homosexuality and stuff because it's like, I guess there's a difference. and if you don't act on it, it's fine. And some people will say,
I would say there's probably a difference.
Yeah,
I think maybe not in the way that they're describing it.
Yeah,
but I think that you can be. You could find someone attractive or be attracted to without being sexually attracted to.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. Yeah. In the mid-'90s, they began to focus on being politically active against pro-LGBTQ laws.
Yep.
In 2004, they endorsed a federal amendment to the Constitution and the U.S. Constitution and the Utah Constitution banning same-sex marriages. So any marriage that wasn't between a man and a woman, they were trying to get it in the Constitution. That wasn't
in the Constitution.
Yeah, for both the state and the country.
Oh, fuck that.
Yeah, exactly. So that didn't go through, but they were still very vocal about that.
I gotta wonder if I don't know. This is a weird thought, but what if it's in a polygamous kind of relationship?
Yeah.
Do you think there's ever? I'm sure there probably has been, but relationships between different sister wives.
Yeah, I'm
wondering if that's something too.
Yeah,
I have no idea. This is
and I think early on
how that factors into their beliefs on homosexuality.
Yeah, I'm sure they would be punished or whatever if there was anything like that. But
I can imagine there had to have been at least a couple instances.
Yeah. Well, and two, I know just from watching Big Love, I think they're never joined in the same room. You're never going to have sister wives in sleeping in the same room. The husband just moves around from room to room.
Yeah.
I think I saw that in some other documentary about polygamy. It's there's never any because they don't want to risk homosexuality, I guess. But you're never with two of your wives at the same time. You're always
at bedtime.
At bedtime, yeah. It's musical beds.
That's you know how you get around that is you sneak out of your room and go to another room.
Yeah,
it's a very easy workaround.
Yeah, it's true.
It's not like they're locked up in prison cells every night.
Yeah, it's true.
Hung from their ankles so they
let us know if you've ever banged your sister wife.
But that's an interesting dynamic that I don't know.
Yeah,
that's why I was reluctant to bring it up because I don't really know where I'm going with it.
But I'm sure it's been a thing.
Yeah.
And I think there has been other instances, I think early on even within where they were punishing people for homosexual behavior within the Mormon church and communities and stuff like that. Well, especially when you have, it's not just a church you go into on Sundays. When you create a whole town and then a whole state around a religion, and then what do you and then they're going to punish people for quote unquote sinning.
Well, their big punishment is shunning and exiling people, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
They'll shun you, and no one will talk to you, or they'll just make you leave town, right?
Yeah, actually, I should look into when you're a theocracy like that. What are they imprisoning people for?
Well, I don't know if they do. They imprison you because I
no, they don't now. But I wonder at the time, because if you have a whole state that's run by your religion, what are your laws and stuff like that? Yeah. It's not something I've looked into, but.
Well, I know, I've definitely heard stories about people who were once in the church and they leave, and you're basically just excommunicated from your whole family. And it depends.
Jehovah's Witnesses is really bad for it, and then Mormons are a little better about accepting your family and stuff like that, but there's still a lot of issues around that and what you're allowed to do with your family and things like that, and especially any kind of religious ceremony you're not allowed to attend. So you can't go to your brother's wedding if you've left the church or if you're in a same-sex relationship or whatever. It's just,
I don't remember if I talked to you about this yet or not, but there was another podcast I listened to called Reply All, and they did an episode a while ago about Orthodox Judaism and about a man who basically, through the internet, discovered the outside world and ended up leaving the church, and it was the same kind of thing about exiling and how his kids don't talk to him anymore and all these kind of things. So.
Well, the internet's been huge with Mormonism too, about just like I said, just Googling it and the evidence, because the church has been so good at covering up.
Well, you're exiled, right? You're kind of you don't see everything outside of the church, and then
there was a case in the 80s where this guy came forward and said he had a bunch of old documents from Joseph Smith and Brigham Young that disproved the entire church. So the church gave him tons of money for these documents, ended up being fake. Like he just conned them. He ended up being a murderer and is in prison now.
Oh,
the guy who faked it, but yeah, but I mean that's a good scam.
Not a bad one. I mean, if you didn't do the murder,
yeah, exactly.
Then, yeah.
So yeah, Prop 8 was another one where they like made videos and sent them out to the churches with like the president telling them to be active in trying to stop Prop 8 or not stop. They were pro Prop 8. Prop 8 was, the anti same-sex marriage bill in California. They were big on that. So just like big on ruining lives, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's not exclusive to the Mormon Church. It's something that happens quite a lot.
No,
especially
it's awful. Yeah.
Well, that's didn't Kentucky just pass an anti-abortion bill recently? Or they were, and I don't remember if it was getting blocked by the Supreme Court or not. But
you wonder how many of those like politicians have made their mistresses get abortions, but they're just like.
Well, not even that. It's just like we care about the baby until it's born, and then as soon as it's born, they don't give a shit.
Yeah, I saw a meme. It was like a woman playing with a baby in the pool, and then her son was like struggling, and it was like on the woman like the right, and then the baby was unborn fetus, and then the kid drowning. It was like kid who needs adopting, kid stuck in the foster system.
That's funny.
Yeah, and then let's talk about Mormons and race.
Right? Yeah. Are they predominantly?
They're mostly white.
White. Yeah.
So Joseph Smith was anti-slavery. He was for abolishing slavery.
Yeah.
He also ordained a black person into the priesthood. So he wasn't that bad.
He was a pretty progressive dude.
Brigham Young comes along and cuts it all back.
Oh yeah.
Brigham Young says that black people have the mark of Cain. So in the Bible, God, when Cain kills Abel, God puts a mark on him to show people that he's evil, and sends him out into the world, which is funny because he was Adam and Eve's son, so you didn't think there'd be a world, but there is a world out there. There's people. So he sends out Cain with a mark, and Brigham Young says that mark is being black. So he said that anybody who even has a drop of the mark of Cain in them, so even slightly black, will not be allowed.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so that changed in 1978 with no apologies.
Yeah.
The church has never officially apologized for this. They've just kind of like, okay, you're fine now. So a presidential letter saying that you can be ordained to the priesthood despite race or color. But no apologies. So now they can be. There's also something called white and delightsome, which was a term they would use a lot.
Can you say that one more time, please?
White and delightsome.
White and delightsome?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, the more you come to God, the more white you appear, and the stronger your blue eyes.
Are they saying like, you're holier because you're lighter?
The more whiter you are, the more holy.
Jeez.
And the more God's blessing is on you.
So it's basically like Aryan pride.
Yeah. Basically, the big thing is with natives, like that was part of their punishment too, was for forsaking God. God made them darker. And so, and they said that as they grew to become better Mormons, their appearance would become whiter. And yeah.
Okay.
I don't think they understood genetics. But here's a quote from Brigham Young. Any man having one drop of seed of Cain in him cannot hold the priesthood. He said at one point that the only way to become pure is to spill their blood by cutting off their head.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the only way to purify
blackness
a black person
is to chop off their head
off?
Yeah. Or even if you have a drop of black blood in you.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so I don't know.
So not very nice.
Not very progressive.
Not very tolerant. Yeah. Not very... sounds like a total piece of shit.
It's a huge church now. Do you want to look up what their membership is now? And while you're doing that, it's the Kinderhook plates that I was thinking of, those plates that were obvious forgeries.
What are they called?
The Kinderhook plates.
Kinderhook. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and also, Joseph Smith said there are men living on the moon. And Brigham Young said there are men living on the sun.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, first of all.
Well, no, obviously at night, right?
In 2012, there were an estimated 14.8 million Mormons,
That's a lot.
with roughly 57% living outside the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
4.5 million regularly attend services. That's roughly 30%. And a majority of non-Mormons are white and non-Hispanic, 84% of them.
Wow. Another thing is a lot of times ex-Mormons are still considered members of the church. That inflates the numbers.
Oh, okay.
And it takes a lot to become unmember. And what people will do is they organize days where a bunch of former Mormons will demand that they be removed from their records at the same time so that the numbers drop. Yeah, so that's kind of cool, like a fight against some of their stuff. But yeah, so I think, I don't know, they have a really good missions program. So it's like I said with Seventh-day Adventists, they grow because they send out people to, and same with Jehovah's Witnesses, they're going to grow. If you're like the Quakers where you don't reproduce and you don't proselytize, then you're not going to grow. They're good at reproducing, they're good at missions. So they got to get better at covering up stuff on the internet now, and they're going to be their biggest thing if they want to keep growing.
It's funny, it's like they're good at missions, but it always just feels like exploitation of
it's
vulnerable people.
Oh, it totally is. I want to talk to those people too when it's like a 18-year-old telling you they have all the answers. You want to be like, can you come back to me in 10 years and tell me where you're at?
I'd just be like, okay. I would ask them like some just normal biological questions.
Yeah.
Like where do babies come from?
Yeah.
Do you know what a clitoris is?
Yeah. That's made up. That's not a thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But things like about basic sexuality and just you know life in general.
Yeah.
He's like, do you know these things?
Yeah, exactly. Then then why should you tell me about what's going to happen after we die if you don't know what's happening while we're still alive?
Yeah. When did Led Zeppelin 4 come out? Come on.
How long is Freebird?
Yeah, exactly.
9
the important
minutes, 7
questions.
seconds.
If you don't know that, then I don't know what you can tell me about it.
Yeah, exactly. Any other thoughts on our very basic rundown of Mormons?
No, I think we covered most of what we wanted to.
Yeah,
outside of getting into more of the fundamentalism and
and we didn't talk really about how the church structure works.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's something. It's similar to other churches, but more organized, I think, and they have the quorum and the president. So, So let's hit the drop.
Just stay away from the 3-bean salad.
You're not the boss of me.
Lord's Law today. So this is talking about the temple and who can go into the most holy of holies. So this is in Leviticus chapter 21. And this is who can go into the Holy of Holies. You ready for this?
Yep. Who could go into the Holy of Holies? Is that the beehole?
The beehole, yeah.
That's the holiest of holies, right?
The Lord said to Moses, say unto Aaron. So kind of passing along. God can't talk to Aaron. So the Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron.
Moses, will you tell Aaron that he's an asshole?
We are not speaking right now, but can you please tell him? So say to Aaron, for the generation to come, none of your descendants who has a defect may come near to offer the food of his God. No man who has any defect may come near me.
Any defect?
May come near. No man who is blind or lame, disfigured or deformed, no man with a crippled foot or hand, or who is a hunchback or a dwarf, or who has an eye defect, or who has festering or running sores, or damaged testicles. No descendant of Aaron, the priest who has any defect, is to come near to present the food offerings to the Lord. He has a defect, he must not come near to offer food of his God. So God doesn't want food from a dwarf.
2 problems with that.
Yeah.
Well, most of those defects, everybody has at least some variation of those.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
You can probably argue that maybe you don't, but I'm sure
I have a sore ankle.
I wear glasses. That's
that's
an eye deformity, right? I mean, unless you have perfect vision.
Yeah.
No skin blemishes.
Yeah.
No anything else, but whatever.
Yeah.
Regardless.
I have many running sores.
Who put this forth? Who put forth this law?
The Lord told Moses to tell Aaron.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is before he was, a nice God.
Yeah.
This is when he was a
when he was a dick. Because Jesus touched lepers and stuff.
Yeah. He didn't care.
Yeah, he was all about it.
He had one of
but
those
I don't think
sore fetishes.
Oh, this is about food though. So this is feeding God, which I find funny too. You got to feed.
You
God.
have to feed God.
Yeah, I
like
guess
a
so.
Tamagotchi.
He's not only a jealous God; he's a hungry God. He's like a Tamagotchi. By the way, did you feed my Tamagotchi today?
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Oh shit.
Is there a Tamagotchi app? I was wondering about that recently.
I bet there is. Let's. Hey, listener, tell us: is there a Tamagotchi app? So if you're gonna feed your Tamagotchi, make sure you don't have any open wounds or are short. If you're gonna feed God,
What do they mean feeding God?
it's like sacrifices, basically.
Oh, like leaving food offerings.
Food
for him?
offerings, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
And
that's
then they stopped that after a while.
they stopped that because Jesus was the ultimate offering, right?
Oh,
That's why.
that's gross.
Well, plus after the temple was destroyed, it was a whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like old world ideas
Yeah.
about it, and then it
Yeah.
kind of things got flipped,
Yeah.
turned upside down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
But God, they say God loves everyone, but don't
except all those people.
accept all those people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he loves them, but
He
he
doesn't want them
thinks they're
touching his
gross,
food.
and he just
Yeah.
wants them touching his food.
Yeah. He's like a rude waiter. Like, excuse me, can you not let the handicapped person eat my food? Can we get a real person over here? You can get the fuck out of my restaurant, lady. I don't know what guy's a lady in this one, but
that's pretty crazy.
yeah. All right, so that was us. That was Mormons. That was the Lord's Law. And see you in 2 weeks.
We'll see you then.
Work, Sky Moon.